Sean Crook. I'm the current president of Tuolumne County Farm Bureau. And on behalf of the Farm Bureau, I'd like to thank everyone for attending tonight, all of the candidates that have taken time out of their busy schedule to be here, as well as the public that is here tonight to listen and to ask questions. Our format is going to be 5 minutes for the candidates to speak, to give their platform speeches. We'll have timekeepers down here. Green will be go. At the 4-minute mark, you'll have a yellow card, and then you'll have a red card at the end of 5 minutes. After the candidates give their speeches, we will open it up for audience questions for about 3 minutes, and either myself or our other Master of Ceremony, Sasha Farkas, will be running around with the wireless mic to make sure we get everybody who wants to ask a question in that 3 minutes the opportunity to do so, and so we will do our best at that. The candidates have all been invited to put out any of their campaign literature. Feel free at the end to grab something from their tables. Please visit them. We have refreshments in the back. We also, with Tuolumne County Farm Bureau, you can see some of our banners up with our Log It, Graze It, or Watch It Burn campaign. We have stickers and t-shirts available in the back, as well as membership applications. If you'd like to know a little bit more about Farm Bureau, you can speak with Elena, our executive director, who's in the back there, manning our table. And we'll probably leave the doors open for just a little bit for some more members of the public to come in this evening. Our order, we're going to go by race, so we're going to start with national and then state and then local. So to begin with, I'd like to invite Congressman Tom McClintock up to the stage to get us started tonight. Thank you, Congressman.
Well, Sean, thank you. Thank you for hosting this event tonight, and I want to thank all of you folks for coming out tonight. People know where I stand. They know I'll stand firm. The National Taxpayers Union, which is the largest taxpayer organization in the nation, for 2 years running has named me as the best vote in the House of Representatives for taxpayers. Not one of the best, the best. The National Citizens Against Government Waste rated me as one of only 2 congressmen with a 100% perfect voting score on issues fighting wasteful government spending. You all know me. I've devoted my life to reducing the cost and burdens that government has imposed on our families and on our jobs. And I've worked to restore the uniquely American principles of individual liberty, constitutionally limited government, and personal responsibility that produced the happiest and freest and most prosperous society in human history. I think even those who disagree with me know that I have never wavered from these principles and never will. I serve on the Budget Committee because I believe that the national debt and runaway spending is the biggest single threat that our nation faces. I've worked to produce and enforce balanced budgets that move our nation back to solvency before we completely wreck our economy and bankrupt our nation. And I believe in the next several weeks in the House, you're going to see some significant progress in that direction. And I serve on the Natural Resources Committee because, well, as that sign points out, it is absolutely critical to the local economy and quality of life of our region. I've fought to restore abundance as the principal objective of our water and power policy. The fact is, we're not going to solve our water shortage until we build more storage, and we can't build more storage until we overhaul the environmental regulations that are making construction of new storage cost prohibitive. I chair the subcommittee on federal lands. For that, we have set 3 overarching objectives. First, to restore public access to the public lands. Second, to restore sound forest management practices to the public lands. And third, to restore the federal government as a good neighbor to the communities that are directly impacted by the public lands. Public access is important because tourism is vital to this region, and it's directly threatened by efforts to remove visitor and tourist amenities from our national parks and forests and to close roads. Sound forest management is vital because environmental regulations have made the thinning of our forests nearly impossible, and they become so overgrown and so overcrowded that they can no longer resist pestilence and disease and drought. And a good neighbor policy is important because our mountain communities have the most at stake and the most at risk in federal land decisions, and the federal government needs to stop overriding the will of those communities as expressed through their locally elected representatives. And we're moving legislation on all three fronts in this regard, assisted most recently by Supervisor Sherry Brennan, who was our star witness at the hearing and gave that bill quite a send-off. The people of of this district want our nation's borders defended. We want the looting of our national treasury by special interests stopped. We want our constitutional rights restored, and we want the federal government returned within its constitutional limits. Our district is blessed with bountiful resources, and yet we're forbidden to prosper from them by our own government. Those have been the priorities I've set in Congress. I think my effectiveness should be evident from the high ratings I've received from those organizations that are directly involved with these issues. And finally, I want to mention one other thing, and that's an overarching question that's going to be decided by this election across the country. You know, America has enjoyed its greatest prosperity and happiness when it's known its greatest freedom. Our founders created a society where we were free to make our own choices, enjoy the fruit of our own labors, take responsibility for our own decisions, and lead our own lives with a minimum of government interference and intrusion. Government protected our fundamental rights and left us otherwise alone to live our lives as we saw fit. Today, a very different vision competes for our future. It's that of an all-powerful government that commands our economic decisions, micromanages our daily lives, and consumes more and more of our earnings. In the last 8 years, it's disrupted our health care system, shrunk our family incomes, threatened our constitutional rights, doubled our national debt, and overwhelmed us with illegal immigration. Anyway, that's the course that's going to be decided by this election. I thank all of you for being a part of the decisions that are being made for the future of our country.
My name is Andrew. I'm a resident of Sonora. I was wondering, what is your position on clear cutting?
Well, I oppose clear cutting. That does the same damage to the forest as a forest fire. I support the measured thinning of our forests. Our forests can typically hold about 10 to 100 trees in a healthy condition. The average we now have is 266 trees per acre on the California National Forest. In that condition, they don't have room to grow. They're fighting for their lives against other trees trying to occupy the same ground, and they can no longer resist a disease and pestilence and ultimately catastrophic wildfire. We've had an 80% decline of timber harvest on our federal lands in the past 30 years. We've seen a concomitant increase in the acreage destroyed by forest fire. All that excess timber comes out of the forest one way or another. It's either carried out or it burns out, but it comes out. When we carried it out, we had healthy forests and we had a thriving local economy. In the years since we consigned our forests to a policy of benign neglect, we've watched them destroyed.
Another question in the back. Excuse me, sir. How can you stand there and say you always voted on behalf on the right side of the issues when you have consistently voted down veteran benefits, you have consistently cut the budget for the stewards of the forest, and also consistently voted against children and families that have lived?
Well, with all due respect, sir, that's absolute partisan nonsense. The fact is, I was endorsed by a number of veterans organizations in the last election, expect to be endorsed by them again in this election precisely because of my votes in favor of supporting our veterans and supporting our troops. The quality of my votes, I think, is best testified by the organizations that are directly involved in these issues. National Taxpayers Union, Citizens Against Government Waste. You'll find that I'm the best rated congressman in the House on those issues that directly affect our economy, our way of life, and our future as a nation.
Another question there. I'd like to know where you stand on climate change.
I think the climate has been changing since the Earth formed about 4 billion years ago. I think the planet has been warming on and off since the last ice age. And whether or not we decimate our economy by imposing new layers of regulations and taxes on an economy that's already struggling, the Earth is going to continue to warm and cool as it has for 4 billion years.
Thank you, Congressman McClintock.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you all.
And coming with us. Thank you. Next, we would like to invite Mr. Sean White to the stage, who is running for the same seat as Congressman McClintock.
Thanks. Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, farmers. Thanks for having me here. And I guess there's probably some friends of farmers, and I wanted to thank all the farmers, too, for feeding me and my family since the beginning of time, since even, I don't know, since the last ice age, I guess. I think there wasn't much farmers going there, speaking of climate change. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I'm here for. And so what I do is I'm in the solar business. My company is called White House Solar. The reason I have that name for my company is because my last name is White. That's the person you're going to check next to their ballot, right? And then also, when you sign up for a contractor's license, you can put your name and the business name, and you don't have to do a DBA. So that's White House Solar. That's why I got this right here. And I paid for this, my tax money, this logo, right? And so I teach classes all around the world. I'm going to go to the Middle East and teach in Oman this month, in the Philippines. I teach across the country. I have a big fat passport, so I kind of understand the people in the world, and that there's good people and bad people everywhere you go, and it's those small little sliver of bad people that give all those bad countries the bad name, pretty much. So we just have to get to the good people, and so let me talk about what's bad in this country, and what I'm doing here, trying to change, is money. Money is controlling our elections. The system is rigged. Everybody knows that the system is rigged. Even the politicians know that the system is rigged. They have to go sit there for 30 hours a week begging for money. They don't have time to write laws. They're so exhausted after begging for money since the day they get elected. All that they can do is just sit there and go like, I'm just going to vote no on that thing. I don't have time to like say why I'm going to vote yes. And also, and we have like this crazy gridlock. People are upset. People are mad. You know, look at the presidential race. People have they pretty much Trump is the front runner because people are mad. They voted for somebody that's not even a politician. You know, because people don't like politicians. People don't trust politicians. Politicians take tons of money. I mean, look at OpenSecrets.org. The guy that was just standing here takes lots of money, millions of dollars, from all these people that are not even in our district. Unlike the incumbent, I live in the district. I graduated from high school in this district. I take flying lessons right over there at Springfield Aviation in Columbia, at the Columbia Airport. I like to land on runway 17. And when I was in high school, I even went to Columbia College. So I know this place a little bit. I've been going to the Lair of the Bear since I was 2 years old. So I guess that's 47 years that I've been cruising up the highway here, going up to Pinecrest at least every year. So I love this place. I love these mountains. I love all the places up and down the Sierras. And I love this great state. I love this great country. And we need to fix this country. We need to take money out of politics. Money is the cause of all the problems that we're having. If you look at like everything, you look at healthcare. Why is healthcare messed up? Because the insurance companies and the drug companies are paying off the politicians. You know, they wouldn't have ever been able to get the Affordable Care Act together unless they made all these compromises, and pretty much it's not even what they started off with in the first place. Healthcare should, you know, people should have healthcare. Poor people shouldn't have to go get all their health care out of emergency rooms, which raises the prices, which makes people go bankrupt. Regular working Americans have, the #1 cause of bankruptcy used to be healthcare. You know, you get sick, your insurance doesn't cover it. it, you either die or you go to the emergency room, where it costs $10,000 a day usually. So, and also speaking of healthcare, I'm a licensed chiropractor. I used to be a chiropractor for 12 years. So I still have that license. I'm a licensed electrician. I have a solar contracting company besides doing all the teaching. I wrote 3 books on solar energy. And I have a dry sense of humor, so if you didn't get something, you can laugh right now. I'm looking for that red card to come up. I know it's going to come quick. And so I'd like to get your vote. Some other things that campaign contributions affect is just everything. Just like, think of this of yourself. If you were a politician and you had to beg for money all day long, and people were giving you millions of dollars, wouldn't you feel indebted to those people? Even if somebody, I ran for county supervisor a couple of times, and people would give me $100. Okay, and when I got $100, I felt guilty, and I felt like I had to pick up that phone and talk to those people, and that's not right, and my time is up. Vote for Shaun White. Thanks. And there's my wife and daughter over there too. She's
my question for you, and I should have framed it differently when I asked Congressman McClintock, since 97% of scientists agree that climate change has been affected by the human race, where do you stand on climate change?
I believe in science. So, and if you look at those 3%, I would almost tend to disagree that there's 3% of scientists that don't believe in climate change, because there's at least 3% of scientists that are paid for by people that are causing all the carbon that's been put underneath the crust of the earth for millions of years, and it's just going out at a very rapid pace. We have more than twice as many people on this planet since I was born, and the population's going up like crazy. And you can just look at, I mean, it's just like common sense. If you're a scientist, if you study, if you believe in cause and effect, and you know, like people like Galileo, the Earth is round. You put CO2 in the atmosphere, it keeps the heat from escaping. The planet gets warmer, and then if you look at all the temperatures around the world, those temperatures are rising on average. The average temperature of this planet is hotter than it's ever been, and so it's just like, you know, if you're a climate skeptic, I'm sorry, but you know, you're probably going to eventually go through some different phases if you're a climate skeptic. And so one of them is like, you'll start saying, well, I'm not a scientist, and then you'll finally end up agreeing with it, you know, when you see Miami sinking. So that's, I don't know. Did I answer your question? Okay. But another, actually the land is rising in Alaska because the glaciers are melting. My brother's a biologist there. So, and when I lived in Alaska for a year and a half, climate change looked pretty good during the winter. So go ahead. That was one of my jokes.
I have a question.
Yes.
How are you financing your campaign?
I'm running on no money. So I've raised $0. You can go to my website, ShaunWhite.org, and I have a button, and you can push it, and you can like give me $0, and I'm going to raise $0 at least 1 million times is my goal. and so I'm not financing the only one thing that I paid for this campaign was the minimal filing fees that I had to get on the ballot. And I'm not doing anything else. I think that people that fall for like name recognition, political signs, all that stuff, people need to be educated that when you see a political sign, somebody is paying for that and somebody is owning that politician. Yep. Okay. So I want to work for you. I don't want to be owned by somebody with a bunch of money. Thanks. Thanks, Shaun.
Shaun, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I'm sure the candidates are going to hang around afterwards for any questions that didn't get asked during our forum. So please feel free to stay and talk to them. Kai Ellsworth will be our next candidate, and he is running for the Assembly seat. Thank you, Kai.
Thank you. Thank you again, and thank you to the Farm Bureau for hosting this event. It's really nice. I haven't made it to Tuolumne yet since I started this election, so it's really wonderful to try to get out and hear the things that are important to people. This is a huge district. It's 9 counties. Those 9 counties are represented by one person. I'm hoping I will be that person. But whoever that person is needs to realize that they're representing 9 counties, hundreds of small towns, while San Francisco has 3 assembly districts and LA has 9. That's an insane ratio. So my name is Kai Ellsworth. I'm a 27-year-old college student going to school on my GI Bill. I spent 3 years in the United States Air Force. I was injured while I was in Iraq. This is the next best way I can come up with to serve my country. I'm the son of a public school teacher. I'm the grandson of farm workers. And when I started thinking about running, I was upset because 2 years ago, Frank Bigelow ran unopposed. You didn't even get a choice. He was the only name on the ballot. But then I started looking at how little representation we do get here in rural California. I started thinking about these profoundly nonpartisan issues that are really important to the people who live here. The fact that in its huge swaths of this district, you can't call 911 from your cell phone if you get in a car accident. The fact that people can't start a business or call their grandchildren on Skype in most of this district because we don't have any high-speed internet. The fact that our roads are falling apart. The fact that we have 150-year-old bridges that no one's even talking about fixing. The fact that we have no control over our own water, even though all of the water is stored here. The fact that we have no control over our own electricity, even though the dams that create much of that electricity is here. These aren't partisan issues. These aren't issues that make me a Democrat or a Republican. These are rural California's issues. And rural California's issues aren't being championed. We need someone who will go to Sacramento, stand on the floor of the state assembly, and yell really loud like that until someone actually listens. I can't guarantee that if you elect me, I'll do all these things in 100 days or a year or a term, because one state assemblyman represents 9 counties and LA County gets 9 assemblymen. I can guarantee you that I will go to Sacramento and I will fight my hardest, something I learned how to do at 18 when I was sent to Iraq, to make sure that the people in Sacramento are at least forced to listen to us, to remember that we're all Californians, to remember that this is all California, to remember that just because you don't live in a big city or 50 miles from the ocean, you don't get fewer public services. 911 doesn't get to come slower, and we call that okay because you happen to live in Placerville or Sonora or Madeira. My mother told me a story. She was at her school, and there were 2 parents, neither of which who had custody of this child, who were both there trying to pick the child up, arguing in the office, both threatening to kidnap this student, both telling the teachers and the principal that they had guns in their cars they were going to go get. And while these 2 people are threatening to kidnap a child and kill each other on school property, there are 3 different people trying to call 911. The best response time, they were told by the sheriff, was 90 minutes to a school that was about to have a shooting. To a school that was about to have a shooting. That's because we proportion resources in this state on population and property taxes. And while I have no issue with wealthy cities and counties getting even more for their people, we have to start guaranteeing a basic level of services for all Californians. Thank you very much. I am going to leave the rest of it for questions.
Questions?
What do you believe the role of government should be in society?
I think the primary role of government is to protect people's rights and freedoms. After that, I think the government is here to guarantee that everyone has a basic level of opportunity and that basic services are provided to everyone. That means everybody gets electricity and water and roads, and the police and the fire department call when you call 911. Right now, we don't have those things. We can worry about the more complicated stuff once we do.
Any more questions?
What are your thoughts on the state of Jefferson movement?
I saw your hat. I think the state of Jefferson exists for all the reasons I'm talking about. The state of Jefferson exists because right now in California, rural California gets no representation. I unfortunately, and I've talked to some people from the state of Jefferson movement, I can't see how it's financially viable. That doesn't mean that I disagree with its premise or that I disagree with the reasons people are fighting for it. I just don't know how it pays for itself once it's created.
Another question in the back.
So could you elaborate on how you would improve what you talked about in our neck of the woods, so to speak?
I think we improve the public safety by guaranteeing a basic response time for all public safety services. We sit down, we talk to firefighters and policemen, we find out exactly what we need to give them for the lowest cost in the fastest period of time to guarantee a 20-minute response time for fire services, ambulances, and police officers. For roads, I think we need to start spreading out road revenue, and I think we need to stop raiding the tax revenue that's designed for roads for other projects. As far as water and power, I think we need to start looking at small solutions scattered out across the state that give local communities control over their own resources. We need to look at biomass power. We've got tons of slash from these fires that we could be using to generate electricity. We need to start looking at water banking so that your county can own the source of its own water, rather than buying it back from people who own water next to your house.
Another question right here.
Back to the state of Jefferson. Wouldn't it not be a better approach to go back to the old system, to have one county, one state senator?
Yes, it would.
I think the Supreme Court heard in this way because the president has been set. Delaware has 2 U.S. senators. Texas has 2 senators. Rhode Island has 2 U.S. senators. California has. So I think the president has been set. I think the effort should be more on that path because I think it's more viable.
I think that ideally we will go to the Supreme Court and we will attempt to get that solution resolved. And I'm hoping that the state of Jefferson and their rather impressive legal machine can help us do that. So I completely agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kai, for being here. Our next candidate to speak will be Robert Carabas, also running for the 5th District Assembly seat.
My name is Robert Carabas, and I'm running for the 5th Assembly District. My wife's grandfather was a pioneer, one of the first farmers in the valley to plant almonds, and one of the first to use overhead sprinklers to ward off frost. He was a great guy, a signatory of the Don Pedro Reservoir. He told me about getting up in the middle of the night when water came to flood his fields, and he didn't waste a drop of that water. He knew that the water was the difference between success and failure of his 40 acres. So I can't understand why farmers and ranchers support candidates who are committed to protecting the profits of the fossil fuels industry, placing our water at risk. Virtually every candidate and official in the foothills and mountains denies global warming, and there isn't an earth science institution in the world that supports that kind of thinking. See this blue page? It's sitting over there on that table. It contains the names of the most prestigious scientific institutions in the world. And you can visit their websites and get this information for yourself. We have lost 30 million pines, and we may lose all the pines below 5,000 feet. McClintock says it's because the trees are too close together, but they've been too close together for 50 years. It's global warming. The drought weakened the trees. and their resistance to beetles. The beetles, with warmer weather, multiplied at unheard of rates and survived our winters. No rain, no water, no pines. Denying global warming means that we won't be ready for its impacts. In our region, it means progressively less water, longer droughts with occasional catastrophic storms. Bigelow and McClintock want to build more dams and reservoirs. If they understood global warming, they would know that surface water storage is exhausted in about 5 years, while scientists predict 35-year droughts by 2050. Surface storage simply won't last long enough. We will have drought with intervening catastrophic storms, meaning we will get a lot of water all at once. If we're ready, we can capture the floodwaters by recharging our valley aquifers, banking water for future withdrawals. If we're not ready, we'll simply have floods. Do we live within the limits or fight over water? Remember, McClintock demanded that we cut off water to fish in favor of people. Using the same logic to apply to cattle, do we cut off the water to cattle in favor of people? Let's go within our proven water reserves. If California wants our water, then California must employ our people in the forests. If the forest is healthy, then the watershed can produce water of excellent quality. We can harvest our forests, we can mine our mountains, but we must never do it at the expense of the mountain's most valuable resource, water. Without rain, our homes, ranches, and farms are at risk. And the economic downside of denying global warming is missing the economic upside. We can put people to work, making our communities energy independent, using solar and wind, build homes that are water-wise. We can put people to work in our forests, clearing the underbrush. Thank you. I lost the last page. So are there any questions?
Any questions?
I'd like to know your position on the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. How do you think you could improve that?
First of all, I think that Obamacare went a long ways toward improving our healthcare system. I think it's been maligned in the country, but in fact, it's done rather remarkable things. Some 20 million people now have healthcare that didn't have healthcare. But I think that we should look beyond that. I think that we should look to a single-payer healthcare system. The governor of California actually had a single-payer system on his desk. He declined to sign it, but I think we should put it back on his desk. If we were to go to a single-payer on the national level, and we saved every dime that we are currently wasting on healthcare in America, in 13 years we could retire the entire national debt. Somebody else?
Any other questions?
I'm also very concerned about climate change. To switch to 100% renewable energy, we need to do it now to avoid the worst effects of global warming because we need the jobs. In 2015, Gary Bigelow voted against SB 350 and 332, two measures specifically designed to address climate change. And many Republicans have been consistently on the wrong side of this issue. I'd like to know if you could elaborate on your plan to invest in renewables.
If I had the opportunity, I certainly would take any time that I had to visit our communities and encourage people to understand that global warming is an authentic problem, a serious problem that we have to confront quickly. I think that we have been misled by our leaders in this region and their resistance to speaking out on this issue. Fundamentally, it's about water, and for our region, we simply can't do without it. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
What do you think about the current system for campaign financing, super PACs, Citizens United, all that?
Well, I'd certainly like to see Citizens United struck down. I think that was a terrible mistake. Like you, but not quite as generous as you, I only accept contributions of $200 from any organization or any single individual. I think that's very important. I think there's just simply too much money in the pockets of the candidates. If you take a look at where the money is coming from, you pretty much know how they're going to vote. The reason I'm not taking much money from people is because I'd really like to have an opportunity to represent the people of our district, and I think that's a very important issue, actually.
Robert, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Did Mark Belden by chance sneak in and I miss him? All right, well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Sonora City Council race. There are 3 open seats on the Sonora City Council, and so we're going to begin tonight with Mr. Mark Plummer.
Good evening. Special thanks to the Farm Bureau for putting this on. My name is Mark Plummer, and I'm running for the Sonora City Council. I wanted to speak briefly about my studies in France and Germany.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm unaccustomed to mics. Is that better? Okay. About my studies in France and Germany, how I came to Sonora 29 years ago and found work the same day. I'd turned north on Washington Street and fallen in love by the time I had hit Courthouse Park. And how being a timber faller makes me practical and solution-oriented, and all the other things I believe makes me competent and qualified for the city council position. But with only a few minutes to introduce myself, dominant questions that must be answered about, I need to stick to the dominant questions that must be answered about my beliefs on government and Sonora. I believe the best governance is simple, modest, and responsive. I want to see our local businesses prosper, keep taxes as low as possible, and work to make Sonora safer and more attractive. Every time I'm asked why I'm running for the office, the implied question always appears to be, what grand project do you have to or want to accomplish in the office? What will make you special and stand out? I have to confess to having no revolutionary ideas about how to make life in Sonora heavenly. After 6 years on the Sonora Elementary School Board, I'm pretty confident that most everything we do will be incremental and slow, and probably a little frustrating to the public. But I'm a steady plugger who will work with that. I would like to see Vision Sonora completed, and perhaps expanded, and I want to create the best business climate we can for the city. One of the public safety issues that we may want to address is whether the city needs another police officer. There are regular times when there is only one officer on duty for the entire city, a condition that rather surprised me. If we need another, then we need to find the way to pay for the position and hire one. That said, I consider the use of taxpayer money to be a sacred trust, and taxes should never be raised unless critical to the welfare of the public. We should only hire another police officer if there's a true need. But at the same time, my friend John Williams had his pharmacy robbed. There was only one guy, and it took hours for him to be available to come take the report in the middle of the night. That's perhaps a problem. I'm sure Chief Stinson is doing the best he can, and maybe it's enough. It's one of the issues I think that we might want to consider, though. I'm running for the office because I believe I will work well with the City Council to make Sonora an even more attractive place to live and do business. The trigger for my decision to run was the near passage of a recent traffic and parking ordinance. Our City Council, in their zeal to make Sonora prettier and lovelier, considered an ordinance that would have made it illegal to do any non-emergency work on a car on city streets. I spoke out against it because the ordinance was written so broadly that even changing a brake light or a headlight on the street would have been illegal. That makes enforcement essentially at the discretion of any police officer driving by. They say, well, it won't be used for that type of thing. Yes, but then it shouldn't be written like that. The council somehow overlooked how many people in the city only have on-street parking. Incidentally, I'm one of those people. And it's nothing to do with the neighborhood or anything. I live right on Washington Street. They chose to send the ordinance back to the committee, but it's still not finished or voted on. It will come back, and hopefully much improved. But I would like to win this City Council seat to be a steady voice for reason and moderation for the public on the city issues. I will be more effective as a voting member than just another voice from the public. For decades, Mayor Stern has been a voice of reason and moderation on the City Council, and now that he is retiring, I would like to win his open seat to continue that tradition. Please honor me with your vote. Thank you. Boy, I'm not worthy. Thank you.
Seeing no questions? Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'd like to now invite Matt Hawkins to the stage, who is also running for one of the open seats on the Sonora City Council.
Good evening. My name is Matt Hawkins. I'm running for Sonora City Council. Thank you, Farm Bureau, for having me. I really appreciate it. I guess I'll start off by naming off some experience. I am a prior council member. I worked from 2010 to 2014 on our city council. I'm a former Sonora Chamber of Commerce board member, and I currently serve on the Selective Service Committee. I was on the Sonora School Board in between 2007 and 2010. And currently, I'm an assistant store manager with Walmart, and I do have 20 years experience in management. Why am I running? I love the city of Sonora, I really do. And I want to see the city thrive. There's some things that the other council members have put in place, and I would like to help them and work as a team to help get those things done. I want to see us have a balanced budget. When it comes to police officers, there's actually 3 open positions. One of those looks like it's going to be filled, so we still have 2 open positions. I would like to see 1 more get put in place, but again, we have to have a balanced budget. Want to support our public works with maybe trash removal, that type of thing downtown. I think it's time to start passing the torch to a new generation, and I am one of those in that new generation. When it comes to Vision Sonora, I want to see Vision Sonora happen, but I want to see us work on the things that we can work on together. There's a homeless issue that hadn't been brought up with the city of Sonora yet. First day, if fortunate enough to get in this office, I want to call a forum with the different churches, the advocates, the business owners, law enforcement, and anyone concerned with homelessness in the city. When it comes to speeding, I would like to see traffic control happen, whether it comes to like what's called a bulb out in certain neighborhoods. I'm not talking about part of the Vision Sonora plan, but bulb outs and speed bumps. I currently have the Sonora Police Officer Association endorsement, and I'm willing to sit down with anyone who whether they agree with me or disagrees with me. I'm a husband and father of 4. I'm invested in Sonora's future. There are 3 spots open on the Sonora City Council. I think there are 4 good candidates for the Sonora City Council, and I would like to be one of those 3. So I guess I'll go for questions since I seem to have spoke the quickest.
Any questions from Matt?
You mentioned the homeless situation. So what would the approach be to see that improved around our area?
Well, you know, what's funny is I'm going around, and I'm not going to play politician with this, I'm going to be very clear. So I'm going around talking to people. One of the things I hear is, well, what are you going to do about the homeless? Because they do this and they do that. Well, people are homeless for a reason. Some want to be homeless. That's a fact. There are mental issues. There are drug issues. That's why I would like to see some type of forum put together so we could talk about those, and not as a feel-good measure, but to actually do something about it. There are all kinds of issues in our community, and I think talking about it, whether you agree with someone or not, is a good way to get things done. That's what I do every day in my business. I talk to people who disagree with different business decisions that I'm making, and we come up with solutions. So I hope that answers your question.
Do you think we should build another shelter for the homeless?
Again, we've got shelters here. We have churches that feed. I will say this. The Salvation Army has a program where if you're homeless, you can come stay for the night. They'll help with job assistance and food and that sort of thing. I think part of that some of our churches aren't doing. I'm not being critical. I want everyone to understand that. I'm not being critical, but I think that's one of the issues that we need to take up, working more with the churches and the different community groups.
Most people aren't Christians. The churches only help Christians, right?
No, they don't. As a born-again Christian myself, for one, I'm flawed, okay? I'll be the first to tell you that. And 2, we are called to reach out to everyone, okay? And I take that in my personal life. I reach out to anyone and everyone.
Any other questions?
What about keeping a small business here in the town of Sonora, and how can we do that?
We need small business, period. Walk downtown and see. One of the council members now, George Segarini, has called forums to work on this issue. It's very important. We need to open up any avenue we can to keep small business downtown. You name it, we need to do it. I've worked in the past when I was on council. I've worked with Larry Cope to see what we could do to do little things to help out. Right now, our economy up here is not as good as, say, the Bay Area or LA. We need to start copying some of those things to get them in here. I think certain parts of the Vision Sonora plan will help pull people in, and then we can piggyback off that essentially.
Any other questions? One more, we have to make real quick.
This will be real quick, and it's just a comment. I work downtown, and I have to tell you, this community supports our small business every day, and I'm so proud of Sonora and this area for doing that. I'm so grateful.
You know, one thing, a good friend of mine who's in his 80s now that's done business all of his life, has his own business, he always told me, you take care of your locals, they keep you going. It's your out-of-towners that give you your bonuses. So your locals have to take care of each other. I know I support local business anytime I can. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Bill Canning to please come to the stage.
I want to thank the Farm Bureau, but my days are past when I'm jumping up here anymore, so there's no jumping up on top here. I want to thank the Farm Bureau for putting this on. It's always good when you can talk to the community and everybody has a chance to talk and see who they're talking with and who we are. It reminds me of this building because where the Vision Sonora started was in this building. Actually, I was in a meeting in here with Caltrans, And they had done all these great drawings for the city of Sonora and how the roads were going to work. They were going to wipe out 4 lanes of downtown. They wanted a 4-lane highway downtown. I said, what are you guys smoking? We won't fit. I mean, we're going to tear the buildings down. So I left that meeting and went outside with Darren Grossi, and I said, we need to do something to get proactive on what we can do to make Sonora better. And he goes, there's grants available through Caltrans for study grants, for planning grants for Vision Sonora. And I got the council involved, and we decided, we're going to apply for that. It was a little hard at times. We had a little arm turning every once in a while, but it's come a long way, and the people have come up into that area and said, hey, this is what we want Sonora to look like. But you have to have strong economic businesses. The businesses downtown have to become stronger and more income, because that's where you're going to get more tax revenue that gives the city more money to operate, to do other functions with. So, that's so important to a small town. Our fire department, we have a small department. They do a great job. Can we use more fire trucks? Yes. Can we use more firemen? Yes. Can we use more policemen? Yes. We only have so much budget to work with, and that's the hardest thing. And wherever Matt is, by the way, Matt, just so you know, we have a balanced budget, and it's actually gotten stronger. And we have getting more money into the reserves. So with that being said, I just think that Sonora is, I always use the thing it's like a diamond, but you got to polish it every once in a while, and get it to shine. And unfortunately, right when we were trying to get and I was working on getting some projects started for grant funding for people to fix up the outside of their buildings, because a lot of the buildings downtown, as a lot of people in here know, they're out-of-town owners that own those buildings, and they won't put a dime into them. All they want is how much they can get for rent, and that's it. And we were trying to do a grant program, but right at the same time, the governor came in and took all our redevelopment funds away, over $2 million that was set for projects for downtown. And I want to tell you that the city of Sonora was one of the great cities and one of the people that actually used that money to benefit downtown. What happened is you had people in other bigger cities for redevelopment that took that money, they redid the greens on their golf courses, they repainted some of their buildings, and so there was a lot of misuse of those funds, and they've been taken away. So we have a lot of work to do. We stay the course, and I believe that we can make this city really strong again. And we know it's hard because the people are struggling. And I'd like to open it up for questions, because I'd rather hear from you what your questions could be than instead of listening to me talk.
Any questions?
Again, this isn't put you on the spot, but more for my education. Is there any reasonable way that we can give tax credits to the businesses or the owners to dust up the storefronts and not have it ruin the city budget? Or some other means of encouraging them to do it if we can't come up with outside grants to do that?
Well, Mark, I think that was the idea, because a lot of these buildings, again, like I said, are owned by outside. There's outside individuals that don't live here. And the only way we're going to get them fixed up is what Connie has started, a really good little program where they're painting some of the buildings people are and getting awards. We're going to have to do it ourselves. I wish we could find money to do it, but there's no funds available. Our police department is, we can use some more officers and more vehicles. But you only have so much budget to work with. And it's hard because the city, you got Tuolumne County pays more than the city pays their officers, and their officers can get a $20,000 signing bonus if they go into Modesto, into these other areas. So it's really hard to compete. So the officers that want to be here, they're here because they love this city too. I often say they could be a little more friendly and wave at people, but that's what I say, a little more Mayberry.
Question in the back.
My name is Janet Buffet, and I have lived here now 27 years. And I can only tell you, when we arrived here, This was a wonderful place. It was charming. We loved it from the day we moved in. However, things have gone downhill ever since. It is no longer charming. It's very sad to see storefront after storefront, empty stores. And my question is, what did Murphy's do right? Because they were a one-horse town when he arrived. And today, they thrive because everything is open on Saturday and Sunday, and here, half the stuff is closed on the weekend. Well, you don't make money on Monday from tourists. So that's basically my question. Why did they succeed and we've gone absolutely downhill? Tourism.
You know, that's a great question. And the answer, I'm going to give it to you as simple as I can. For those that followed the beer garden going next door over here, that gentleman was coming in to put, he already has the bourbon barrel. Now, I don't know what money he's put into the bourbon barrel, but he did tell me for the next project that he's doing, he's putting in $2.5 million, going to employ 40 people. And I have to tell you, I was well taken back when our planning commission didn't vote for it and took it back. I was just absolutely flabbergasted because, you know, you're always going to have one or two people, three people that don't want anything, and they will always fight you. Those are the businesses that turn around and make something happen because someone else will come in to see that they put in that kind of investment. Why did they invest here? Murphy's, look at the winery. Look at Couch's. Couch was going to come here. And unfortunately, the county said, no, we don't want you here. Look at Glen Bell, for those that can remember. Glen Bell was going to build a tourist area. He wasn't building a shopping center. He wasn't building he was going to build a hotel, so I better be quite easy there. For those that remember, it was a great thing, but they wanted to tax him for $7 million before he was done. He says, give me one more year and you can start taxing me, county. They said, no, you pay us what we're due, what we want our taxes. They didn't look at the big picture. There was a bigger picture out there. So those are the things we're seeing today, and we have to fight for those and make sure it's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Canning. Connie, you are up. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you also to the Farm Bureau for hosting this event. But more importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you out there who took the time out of your schedule this evening to come and listen to those of us who are interested enough to be leaders within your city, county, state, and federal government. The City of Sonora has an obligation to provide the community with a clean, safe, and secure environment in which to live and work and to preserve and promote its historic character. That's the City of Sonora vision statement that was adopted in 1998 and amended in 2003. The Sonora City Council has an obligation to make sure the City of Sonora lives up to that statement. But that's not all. Something that is left out of the current vision statement is economic development. If residents and tourists don't purchase products to generate sales tax, or buy gasoline to go to work, drop their kids off at school, shop or travel to generate gas tax dollars, or visitors don't pay TOT tax when they rent a hotel or Airbnb room, the economic viability of a city is substantially reduced. Sales tax is the city's #1 revenue generator. When I ran for this seat in 2012, I said we could do better. I believe we can do even better. And how are we going to do that? We need to partner with City of Sonora businesses in any way we can to make them more successful. Because if they're successful, they breed more businesses to want to fill those available spaces throughout the City of Sonora. Mr. Canning brought up the beer garden. Some of you know that as a city council member, I said that I would recuse myself from any vote on the beer garden because I wanted the community to know that I supported this project 100%. The residents of the city of Sonora showed us what they wanted. They want something to happen in downtown Sonora, and I'm behind that every bit that I can, and I will support any business that wants to come into the city of Sonora. We need to promote Sonora as a destination. We'll bring more visitors here to stay in our hotels, enjoy our culture, and spend their dollars, and leave to tell others. You need to visit Sonora, where you feel you belong. Living up to the expectations of our residents who have taken the time to be involved in the Vision Sonora Plan and the Dragoon Gulch Trail process to make our community a more vibrant place to live and play. Work hard to make the state of California aware of the fact that transportation dollars need to be allocated equally to small rural communities for the badly needed improvement of our city streets. We need to continue to collaborate with our partner, the County of Tuolumne, because Sonora is the heartbeat of Tuolumne County. So in closing, I ask for your vote to re-elect me to the Sonora City Council for the next 4 years so that I can continue my work for you and help to make decisions based on what's best for the future of your and my community. Thank you.
Any questions?
I read in the paper that there's merchants downtown that don't like the vision of Sonora, or Sonora vision Sonora plans. Will you articulate a little bit what the concerns are and how that's going to be resolved?
Sure. I think that the lack of information is what is causing a lot of the distrust or the not knowing really what the plan is all about. When you look at the plan, it was the plan was created by the community over a week's period of time. What you see in the printed plan is the consultant's concept in pictures. Does that mean that that's what it's going to look like in downtown Sonora? I sit as the chair of the Vision Sonora Committee currently, and I'm also the chair of the Vision Sonora Community Design Committee. And one of the projects that we've already worked on with dollars that we could design the public restrooms on Stewart Street over by the farmer's market. When the design committee got together and started planning that, what it will visually look like on the outside, they all agreed that it should blend with the community and not be something that looks modern and overpowering, and came up with a very simple design because the most important part of that project is having public bathrooms. We haven't even begun yet the first project that's been funded. That'll be the transit project that will consist of Washington Street between Church and Stockton Road, and then down Stockton Road. We haven't even begun the design yet. So what I would say to the community of any questions or concerns is, number one, join one of the Vision Sonora committees, because then you can be part of the process. But more importantly, when that first design happens for that first project, we all know that that's the most important project, because whatever is decided for that piece will blend all the way through the rest of the Vision Sonora plan. So right now, with no money or very little money, the first thing that we're doing is, the city is doing is trying to revitalize as much as possible. And that is where you're seeing the trash cans starting to turn be repowder coated in black. The benches will continue to be repowder coated and they will be black. We're adding more benches to the downtown area. 13 brand-new ones. 7 of them have already been adopted by community members to pay for those benches.
And we have time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Williams, thank you very much. So again, you heard from 4 candidates tonight for the Sonora City Council. There's 2 incumbents, Bill Canning and Connie Williams, but there are 3 positions on the City Council that are available.